Welcome everybody to the live stream of Nana the Navigator with a special, I guess, twist to what I'm doing now. We are starting our, what I guess we should say yearly, or I guess it's maybe once every 2 years, watch of the House of the Dragon. And I wanted to discuss it with you all and kind of talk through some of the comments that we kind of see in social media, and then just kind of go into a deep dive of what it is that we are seeing on this channel. Oh, you guys can't see me, so let me say hi. Hi, everybody. Okay, and so, like I said, I am Nana the Navigator, and I wanted to extend my page and talk about things beyond traveling, and or rather, maybe something that's travel reimagined. So every Sunday, we are all transported to the fantasy world of Westeros, where there are unscrupulous people and those who fail to join the Game of Thrones and fail to play it in the most cunning manner, usually get knocked off first. So we will be joining every Monday at 5 p.m., unless stated otherwise, to give you our take on the episodes, character arcs, foreshadowing, themes, things like that. And so this is full disclosure, this is not a full review of the episodes. We might, explore the episodes, and that's going to be largely a part of what's kind of guiding us, but we are not going to break down every little thing that happened in the show. We're not going to tell you every little thing that happened in the episode. I think we're looking at the bigger parts and maybe some things that people might have missed that work really in tune with some of the larger themes of what's going on in the episode. So anyway, it's largely going to be a discussion where we are extrapolating what we have seen in the past seasons and episodes and building on them. And for today, one of the themes I think is probably going to guide some of our conversations, at least towards the end, is going to be what is Rhaenyra's legacy now that we have seen episode 3 of season 2. We're going to be talking about getting into the head of the characters, making predictions, and then there may be some spoilers. So that is your warning right now. So without further ado, I want to introduce you to my Game of Thrones, House of Dragon right hand, who provides perspectives that sometimes my naive eyes do not see straight away. So I'm going to add this person now. Hello, Mrs. Damon Targaryen.
Hello. Hello.
How are you?
I am fine.
Okay,
Nervous, but fine.
okay, well, you don't have to be nervous because no one's watching us now. So it's just okay,
That's
so
the good thing
guys,
about it.
I'm gonna just call you Mrs. for short. So me and Mrs. will literally be on the phone and just kind of recap what we watched during the episodes. Things that made us like, how did this make you feel, or how did this person make you think, or just kind of connecting the dots. Sometimes for me at least, I think it's better when you work as a team than when you're working individually. So Mrs., don't be nervous. You're doing
Okay.
fine, and just always
I'll try.
try and bring your perspective. And I purposely didn't even call you today because I was like, we're not talking about this.
Okay.
We are saving this for the show. I was like, nope, we are not talking about this episode.
Okay.
Okay, so I don't even know where to begin. I feel like I want to start at the end, but maybe I should just be
Well, we missed the first two episodes.
okay.
So
Yeah, we did. And so, okay, maybe we could kind of start there, just kind of talk about the first two episodes. And I really, again, we can talk about other people's legacies, but this week I wanted to concentrate on Rhaenyra
okay.
specifically. But no, let's just go through it. Okay,
So
so
can you talk about her legacy?
Mhm.
What like do you are you wanting to talk about what you feel like she is, where she is headed, like what her actions are leading us to, or
So
like
possibly. So we can talk about it generally and then maybe kind of break it apart. So but let me ask you this, because now that you mentioned that, it made me think of something. Do you think Rhaenyra, at least up until episode 3, do you think Rhaenyra is playing the game?
I think she's playing it safe, and I
Mhm.
think she's putting thought into it.
Okay.
I think that she's she's not being overly emotional like we would think, like a lot of her, counsel, or people that are in her council are being, even, not as bad as Damon. She's not acting on emotion. She's taking people's advice, and she's listening to them, and she's thinking on it.
Mhm.
Because, like, I mean, I know we're going back. We don't want to talk about this episode just yet, but even when she was in the council and she basically said, I hear what you all are saying, and she kind of left it there, like, I'm going to think on it, I'm not going to act. I think that she's playing the game well so far, because she's not, like, she doesn't want to cause bloodshed, and I think she kind of sees and knows and understands, because her dad kind of instilled it in her, that, because he was a peaceful king, she knows that this could destroy her house, she knows that this could destroy them. And I think she, more so than the men in her council, her and Rhaenys are a little bit more, they're kind of thinking about the long game, and not trying to prevent this from happening.
Okay. So that's interesting because you're okay. I always, that's why I always like talking about these things, because I feel like you make me think differently than maybe I initially was. So I would say that I was looking, maybe before this episode, I was listening to like other people's perspective, or looking on, social media. And a lot
Mhm.
of people criticized Rhaenyra because they felt that Rhaenyra wasn't um being like her ancestors. Like they're like, she's not I think it was Visenya. They're like, oh, if Visenya was there, Visenya would have already like gone to King's Landing and did X, Y, and Z.
Mhm.
But Rhaenyra is not doing that, and I think that um, now that I'm thinking about it and thinking out loud, when I saw this third episode and Rhaenyra is just like listening to people and she's like, well, I'll think about it. To me, she came off as very uncertain and unsure. And that
Mhm.
made me mad, if I'm going to be honest. It made me really upset because I'm like, Rhaenyra, you're supposed to be the queen. And like, you need to, if you don't want to do it, tell them we're not doing this right now and tell them why. I felt like she seemed very shaky to me and I didn't like that.
Yeah.
But I think, yeah, the added effect of, which I was also upset at the council people, because I'm like, you guys want to put the torch to the realm, but I'm like, this isn't your house. Like
It's
it,
not your house, and you're disrespect. Like, they were being a bit pushy and
mhm,
showing not a lot of respect for her.
mhm,
And I think Rhaenys checked it, because she
mhm,
even said, but it seemed like they were trying to push her out.
mhm,
And she's the queen, but you got to think about it. Like, they haven't been to war. Like, not like in
mhm,
the beginning of House of Dragon, that was her issue with even like the people who were going to be her queen, like her, who Sir Crispy ended up being.
mhm,
The argument, the argument that she had was like, none of these knights have been to war.
mhm,
Like, the realm had seen peace for so long,
mhm,
and so it's understandable for her to be shaky,
mhm,
because they're going into uncharted territory. It's
mhm,
unfair to say, oh, she needs to be like Visenya.
mhm,
Visenya is Visenya. Visenya, pretty much rode in on a dragon with her husband and husband, and, bro slash husband and sister wife, and like overtook everything. They're two different people. And,
mhm,
people that say stuff like that kind of get on my nerves, because that was the same thing that they said about Daenerys. And when
mhm.
Paris did that, they call her mad. They call her mad, but
You're
she
right.
went and shook Ish up too,
Mhm,
and went like, so. That's not always the best thing to do, because taking King's Landing by fire, which is what they want her to do,
mhm,
that's what Daenerys did pretty much, and she
mhm,
had to burn a lot of people, and a lot of people got killed. So she's trying to, if she can prevent it from happening,
Mhm.
she's trying to do that. And I understand it because of who her father is, and
Who
her father
who
taught
she
her,
served.
right, the sick King Viserys, who her father was, I guess, not is, but who her
Mhm.
father was. I can understand why she did that. I did kind of like, I mean, you want to start at the first episode of the season?
We can jump around. We can jump around. We don't have to stay in one of the
um
spot. Mhm.
so I feel like she's been through a lot, and the fact that she even wanted to meet with Allison was a lot for me.
Okay.
And I feel like she was, because I mean, it's almost like they kind of have, okay, we ended the last season with her son being killed. Like that was big, right?
Mhm.
And it's almost like people aren't taking that into consideration still. They're focused on, okay, this child was killed and she's the kinslayer, all this stuff. She lost a child. She lost her dad and she lost a child, and two children, right? Because she gave birth and lost that child. Like,
And
she
lost
went
the
through
throne.
a lot. That's a lot on somebody, all at once, and then to be thrust into this position,
Mhm.
and to have your people that you thought were loyal to you turn on you. Because we got to think about it, all the people that are at Aegon's council table, those are people she grew up with. They turned their backs on her. These are
Mhm.
people who all turned their backs on her. So homegirl is going through a lot.
Yeah.
And then she got her crazy husband who hemming her up, grabbing her by the neck. You know, she can't trust him.
Mhm.
She don't know if he. Ooh, that's something we got to talk about too. Because today I mean, last night something happened
Mhm.
when he was checking. Oh boy, at Harrenhal, saying "Say your grace."
Mhm.
We have been going back and forth about that. It brings back that conversation we had last week about, does he want to be, would he take her spot? Is she right in not trusting him, or kind of
So can we talk about this for a little bit, because this is actually something that's a big question mark, and the question mark is Damon, and I want to go back to the him literally turning the lights off on little Jaharis. Is that his name, Jaharis?
like, mm-hmm.
I okay. So it's I think the movie, not the movie, the TV series has left it really unclear whether or not Damon gave them the green light to do that. And I was trying to watch through the clips today because a friend of mine watched it and she said, I think she was chalking it up to be a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I don't know. I always, we've had these discussions before, and I feel like there's that, people are always comparing like Amon and Damon, and Amon, we know for a fact that he didn't mean to like, have
Right.
the dragon devour or like, Lu- basically end Lucerys's life. I
Mm-hmm.
don't. believe-
Mm-hmm.
We know he didn't.
He didn't. He said he didn't. He
Mhm.
said it was a mistake.
Right, but he didn't. I don't think he told his family it was a
He didn't
mistake.
tell his family. He
Right.
told his.
Right, and I think that should if he told his family it was a mistake. Well, I don't know because they talk about tempers flaring. I remember when he was talking with his grandfather Otto, he was like, I think Otto had made mention of like his temper flaring. But I'm like, I'm going and I'm looking at, okay, if Amon was a mistake, he's not letting everyone know. I don't think that it was a mistake, but we know it's a mistake.
Right.
With Damon, we don't know, and so he's saying that he did not tell the blood and cheese to take the little boy. But I honestly, and me being a Damon fan, I was a Damon fan in season one. I don't know if I
Right.
believe him. And I went back and I was watching um episode, what is it, episode two or episode one?
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, both of
Mm-hmm.
them, I guess. And I'm like, he told Rhaenyra that it was a mistake, but when I go back, Blood and Cheese or one of them, they said the Damon said a son for a son.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I don't know what he was referring to though, because Damon said amen, right? He said,
Right.
Silver here, one eye, he's hard to miss. Apparently,
Yeah.
he's a good fighter. You guys, be mindful of that. But I'm like, where did that man get? I think it was blood. Where did he get a son for a son? And we talked about this, how the clip, I think it was
It ended when he
right.
asked
She's asked him, okay, well, what
if
if
we
we
can't
can't find
find
him?
him.
And they just kind of panned into Damon and then they went off to the next scene. I think Damon told him a son for a
I
son.
think he did too. And when you say it was a mistake, that could mean a lot of different things. That could mean he made a mistake in telling them that. Yeah,
Or
it
he
could.
made a mistake in making that decision.
It was a mistake in me telling them to do that
Mhm,
because maybe I was rash. I didn't realize how that would make you look.
mhm,
Um, I just, I wanted vengeance for
mhm,
you, and it was a mistake.
mhm,
So that could be what he meant, and
mhm.
not just like it was they got it wrong. It was a mistake on their end. He could be talking about himself. It was a mistake in me going there and doing that, like all together. And
Interesting
so,
choice of words, because he didn't say bad decision. He
right,
didn't say anything. He said it was a mistake,
it
as
was a
if,
mistake.
hmm,
Like it was a mistake. Um, but I feel like he did my hubby. I feel like he did tell them to, if you can't find the one-eyed guy,
mhm.
get one of the sons, like, get the son, because I guess, different from the book, they only have
Right.
2 kids, so get the son. um I think he did, because when when
Well, let me
they
go back. Let me
were
go back to what you said, or let me go back to what you referenced in the book.
hmm
So the book is based off of written accounts of Rhaenyra's Fool, Mushroom,
hmm
Septon Eustace, I think is how you say it, and then Grand Maester Orwell. I think that's how you say his name too. But anyway, and we talked about this before, where the books are written by those three people, and two out of the three people were Team Green.
yeah,
And so, to the book, in my opinion, and I think I'm right when I say this, is skewed towards the Greens.
you told
Um,
me that
mhm,
because you read the book. I have not read the book yet.
mhm, mhm,
We need to make that known
yeah,
too to whoever may watch this,
mhm.
that like one person has read the books and one
Yes,
person hasn't. So you kind of know a little bit more, whereas I'm just coming from the point of view of the
yeah,
show.
but you know what? But it almost, I'm gonna say it almost doesn't even matter, and then maybe I'll rephrase it later. But the reason why I say that is because I I think it's easy to forget when you're reading the books that these are not 100%
Firsthand, these
factual.
aren't firsthand
Right. And
stories.
then when you have two people who have skewed perceptions, right? Like, it might not be true.
It's
It
like
might not be
having
true.
Kristen Cole telling the story and getting his side of the story, and then
Right.
getting Damon's side of the story.
Right. And
Two
so
different,
two,
like, yeah.
two things in the book that just kind of come up to me in my head right now is that, okay, even with the Vayman situation, where Vayman was calling Rhaenyra all sorts of names, saying her sons are,
Mhm. Mhm.
not of Valerian blood, all of that stuff.
Mhm.
Damon is the one, at least in the TV series, who turned the lights off on Vayman. But
Yes, sliced and
in the,
diced.
mhm.
Yeah.
But in the book, they say that Rhaenyra fed him to her dragons. That didn't happen.
Yeah, they didn't show that. I it was better how they played the show. I like how they did it on the show better.
No, I like how they did it on the show better, but I'm also thinking like, this book just might be false. Like,
Yeah.
it
Well,
might be false.
he wrote it. George R.
Mhm,
R. Martin wrote
mhm,
it in a way, it leaves a lot up to different interpretations. Like you can go with it either way it goes. And that's how we talked about this before. I love how he wrote this book because it's so different from the Game of Thrones books, and in that we're hearing different people's versions of the truth.
mhm.
But he wrote it in a way, because when he wrote this book, like he already had a masterpiece with Game of Thrones, so I think he wrote it in a way to where this book is telling you multiple different versions of what could have happened, but this show is going to be like the truth. Like the show is going to be like what really happened, and so it'll open up doors when you're reading if you've read the book, to be like, oh shoot, like
Right. And I think it's easy to fall into, oh, the book said this happened, so then it's true. But I'm like, because I'm one of those people, I was very upset with how they played Blood and Cheese. And
I was too.
the reason I was upset is because they say, oh, people have different accounts of everything that happened in the book. It literally said it in the book, but they're like, all three of these people, Mushroom, Septon, Eustace, Grandmaster Orwell, they all agree that the story of Blood and Cheese happened
It's
in
the
this way.
same. They didn't allow that to. Yeah, I read that. I didn't read the book, but I read an excerpt from the book about Blood and Cheese. So I was expecting it as well. And like I said, I did not need to see the gore. Like a lot of people were upset that they didn't show, the killing, the slicing and all that stuff. I definitely didn't need to see that. I would have loved more dialogue. I would have loved for them to have the conversation, to make her choose, and like, to do the gotcha at the end, like, okay, well, this child is going to always look at you and know that you chose them to be the one that, like, because okay, I don't want to get ahead, so I'll just say, yeah. So I would have loved to see that. I would have loved to see more. I would have
But,
loved to see more
but,
dialogue.
but Kenya, I would have loved that too. But if that's false and it was a made up story to make as propaganda
Mhm.
against Rhaenyra, then it's false. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like,
Right.
they painted it in such a way, but I'm like, why would all three of
They
them agree?
still they still use it as propaganda though.
Yeah, yeah.
So at the end of the day, they still kind of went with the book where they still used everything,
Hmm.
the death, as propaganda against Rhaenyra.
Hmm.
So at that point, her legacy is she's a kinslayer. Killed a baby or had the baby killed. She's a horrible person. Um, I don't. She's not a usurper because the king named her heir, and all of the lords, the great lords of the seven kingdoms, swore fealty to her. So you can't say she's a usurper. You can just say she's a bad person or whatever. Um, but at that point, or still at this point, still she's considered, like, her legacy is she's a bad person.
Yeah.
She's but that's what I say when I say it seems like they're not taking into consideration. Well, she lost a kid too. She lost her child.
Hmm.
And it happened first.
Hmm.
Like it was a reaction to the bad act of the Greens.
Hmm.
So yeah. Um
So I do want to talk, kind of go back to, I think this is probably really season one, because season one was when we were introduced to Rhaenyra.
mhm.
But okay, civil war is inevitable. I think everyone can agree to that.
Yeah,
Um,
it's coming next episode.
yeah, it's coming. We're gonna see it.
Mhm.
But I feel like the version of events, civil war was going to happen regardless. We talked about this before.
Mhm.
Rhaenyra is blatantly thumbing her nose at the firm. She's thumbing her nose with having these three children who are obviously,
The strong boys.
they're strongs, and we're just gonna say it, they're strongs. And I think it's just, they feel very much disrespected, which I can kind of understand. Like, if you have a set of rules about this is how it's supposed to be, and then I think just Rhaenyra had too many things going against her. Number one, you're a woman, right?
Mhm.
And you're trying to take the throne, where I'm pretty sure she would be the first woman to sit the Iron Throne,
She would be,
right,
definitely.
to
Yeah.
inherit the Iron Throne. That's already a hurdle in and of itself. And I think I didn't really, well, I guess maybe I knew it, but it sit more with me when I was trying to think and trying to relate to Team Green. And I'm like, I understand where you're coming from, because this woman is already going to have the throne allegedly, and now she has named somebody as an heir who is
We
not
know
right. We
she's
know
not
you're
a
not supposed to be
Targaryen.
there.
You
Right.
put it in our face.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
so
And
for that, she was I was so upset when I was rewatching it because I was just looking, I'm like, y'all couldn't have at least one or two
Mhm.
little brown babies with white hair, and then just throw one of the strong kids in there. Like, oops, like you had to have three boys by this man.
Right.
It's so blatant.
Mhm.
Like, even though I don't like Allison and I don't like how she handled everything and I don't like how King Viserys handled it, Rhaenyra was wrong.
Mhm.
She was dead wrong for how she handled that. Rhaenyra was a brat.
Mhm.
Like, look, like teenage Rhaenyra was a brat. Oh, did you see she made an appearance too in
Oh, I
that?
know. I was so happy. It was so like
Oh,
I was like, "Oh, baby Rhaenyra, hey
yeah,
girl."
I was like, "Oh, look at young Rhaenyra." I said, that kind of tells me though that my day, he does love her
Yeah.
because he's like hallucinating, and it's like like I looked at the editor's credits at the end, and they even said that they were like, she means something to him, and
Yeah.
so she's showing up and kind of making him feel bad because look at what she was doing. She was putting together the baby's neck, almost like I don't know what that means,
Mhm.
but I did see on one of the posts on social media that people were saying that Harrenhal is supposedly haunted,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
there's a witch of Harrenhal, and that's who the lady was that
I think her name is
showed up.
Alice Rivers or something like that.
Did
Yeah.
she show up though? But do we know? I know we were talking about something else. We were talking about Ray
Mhm.
and her transgressions, but I do we know is was this woman just somebody that only Damon saw?
That
Because
is a
she's a
good
witch,
question.
and she showed I was thinking back, I didn't rewatch it, but I was thinking back when I saw that on social media when people were saying, "Oh, she's a witch." I was thinking like, okay, so when he first showed up in Heron Hall and the guy came down and knelt down in front of him, the strong whatever, and she showed up, I don't think anybody else acknowledged her. Did you? I have to go back and rewatch because I'm like, did she just show up to him and that was just the first time she showed up to him, and she kind of, because she was mugging him, and I paid attention to that. I was like,
Mhm.
why is she mugging him? Like, is she gonna say something to him? But then I'm like, did anybody else even acknowledge that she was there?
So that's a good. I did not even look at it that way. So now you're making me want to go back and actually check. When I saw her, I immediately knew who she was just
You
from
knew who
reading
she was.
the book.
I didn't know who she was. I was thinking like, who is this person? And she's like mugging him, but
Yeah.
nobody addressed her. Nobody said anything to her, and I'm thinking like, okay, now that I'm realizing, okay, this is who she was, because that was spooky as f when
Mhm.
she showed up to him when he was outside of the weirwood, and she said that, and I'm like, oh no,
What did she say? She
like
said, "You will
you're
die
gonna
here."
die here. You're gonna die
Yeah.
here.
Which honestly, okay. So I know, obviously, I know what happens in the book, but I was like, I wanted to like, what does she mean by that?
You know
Because
some.
you know how going back to this, going into Game of Thrones, when
Hmm.
Bran was in the tree with
Hmm.
the three eyed raven, and the three eyed
Hmm.
raven, Bran asked him if I'll ever walk again, and he said no, but you'll fly.
You'll fly.
Right. And so I'm like, is that one of those things where maybe it's like when she says you're gonna die here, it means that maybe he's not going to physically perish, but maybe the Damon as we know him now will
Will
change.
die here.
Right. He's gonna have some
I
sort
don't know,
of
but it spooked me. And then reading, well, not reading, but like looking at people talking about her and how they said she was the reason why he was having those hallucinations.
I'm
And
like, did
then
she put something in his food? Was she in charge of food in here
I
and
don't know. I didn't see if she was. No, he didn't eat. Remember, because he said he didn't want them to poison him.
yeah, but
And
I'm like,
so
maybe he ate later.
we
Like,
didn't see, but like people were saying that she was behind, she's the reason for him having the dreams, and then they said something tied into, you just mentioned it, like when Bran was at the weirwood, when he was connected to the tree, he would have more, because the tree is powerful. um you notice that when she showed up to him, like they, from what I read, someone said that the tree has something to do with it. So some kind of way, maybe he found himself in front of the tree, and that is how she kind of like got to him, and that's when he went to somewhere else and he started to hallucinate when the whole time he was standing at the tree. And I was like, ooh, that's deep. Like,
mm,
so did she lead him to the tree?
I
Like,
don't
what's
know.
going on?
I don't know. This is interesting because they don't give you a play by play in the book.
And
No,
Harrenhal looked a dump. I was like, oh my
no. But
goodness.
can we just talk about when, okay, first, I think they said, excuse me, when he landed Caraxes on, I think it's called Kingspire or something, but that's exactly the place that Aegon the Conqueror landed when he burnt down. Uh,
Really?
so they were like, and Damon knew that. So
Okay,
like,
you got to make me watch. I'm gonna watch it again.
oh yeah,
That
watch
was
it
so
there. Like that's
spooky.
exactly where Aemon, not Aemon, Lord. That's exactly where Aegon
Aegon,
Targaryen
the
was when
Conqueror.
he refused to bend. And I think it's like they literally just finished building Harrenhal and like Aegon the
Yeah,
Conqueror.
it's like the biggest castle in the whole world.
Yeah.
Period.
So
And
he was trying to make
I
he was
gotta watch it. I'm gonna rewatch it now
yeah
because now I want to see.
he was
Like
trying to make a point.
it
Uh,
was so spooky. I loved it. It
but
reminded
it
me
was spooky. But can I also say it was very funny? Like that whole Damon scene with the Strongs and at Harrenhal, it was funny to me.
and when he just bent the dude, he did all of that. Like I just thought somebody was gonna jump out at any moment,
Yeah,
and
I was like, oh my
it
god!
was
I was
just
like,
empty.
you needed
It's
to bring
like
somebody to watch
desolate.
your shit.
It's
Yeah.
everything. It's like desolate. I'm like, it's like I'm like right there with Damon. Damon want to fight somebody, and
Mhm.
nobody comes out, and then he opens the door, and they're just sitting there like,
It's yours. It's yours. You can have it.
okay,
I was
guy
literally
just
like,
kneeled.
this has got to be a ruse. This is not like where is the trap door? Like I was literally
Oh,
waiting for somebody to mess up or
I
like to
was too, but like it was funny, but it's crazy because it's like he said he was like, nobody really has lived here since your people came and burned everything down.
Mhm.
And oh, what do you think about the Blackwoods and the Brackens?
Okay, I thought that was really interesting the way they started it off.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was interesting to juxtapose that with what the Targaryens and the High Towers are experiencing because I'm like, they'll remember exactly what it is that started it, or yeah, I guess they'll remember what escalated it. But I mean, everyone else is just going to see it as you basically destroyed the realm.
You destroyed
So
the realm.
yeah, I thought that was interesting. I wanted to do more research because they do mention them in the book, but if I'm going to be honest, if it didn't have anything to really do with like specific Targaryens, I kind of skipped through. I not that I skipped through it. I just didn't like that. Didn't
It
dive?
didn't.
It didn't
Right.
digest with it within my
Right.
mind.
Yeah.
But I do remember them talking about the two families that were fighting.
They
Um,
said they've been enemies forever. Like
yeah,
they've been two
yeah.
feuding houses, and it's like one is for Team Black and one is for Team Green.
Yeah, and I almost wonder if like that was by design. And what I mean by that, like I'm like, did the what is it called? The Brackens at House Bracken be like, oh, they're going with Rhaenyra, we're gonna go on
Then
the
we're gonna go with Black because we're not gonna be on the same side. I think that's
yeah,
what it is because didn't the guy, the Lord of How Strong or the Keeper of How Strong, whatever he is, he said they just needed an excuse. They
mhm.
literally just needed an excuse to fight. Like they
Yeah.
they don't really care. They're they've been feuding for so long.
But I
But
was like when we saw the people just kind of laying out on the rivers, I was like, oh my gosh, off of somebody
they,
moving
right.
the rocks.
They fighting.
Yeah.
So and that's where a lot of the from what I saw in the editor's credit or the director's cut credit, whatever that comes at the end of the show,
Mhm.
they basically said like it's showing you that like a lot of the men that they are counting on died in that little battle right there. And they're like uh, Kristen Cole and the young Hightower kid
Mhm.
is going towards Heron Hall. Damon is already there. Like they're all trying to get like those two like big houses. Not they're not big houses, but they have big armies, and they're
Mhm.
trying to get their armies who hate each other to come together to fight their cause.
Mhm.
And so,
And they perished already.
well, I don't know if they've all perished because
Yeah, because I think they said it was an army of 40,000. They said right.
right. And if we if we're looking at it like where we are now, Rhaenyra, she doesn't have an army.
Yeah.
Like, and so
Which is, can I just say, which is why it's so frustrating. And I get it, but it's so frustrating where I'm like, Rhaenyra's less than smart council is telling her to burn everything down. You have dragons. But I'm like, you guys don't know they have Vagar? Like
Yeah,
they have an army, they have dragons, they have like, and I think they even have more dragons
I
than
don't think they
the
do.
blacks. They have more, well, they have at this point in time,
Hmm.
they have more people who can ride dragons than the blacks.
They do.
Because I'm like, you have Aegon has Sunfire, you have Helena has, I forgot the name of her dragon, but I mean, is Helena going to be fighting?
Yeah, no.
But
They
still,
just have three. They have three.
well, and then but Vagar is like three dragons in
That's
one.
fine, but they have three. But when you think about it on the black side, you have
Mhm.
Rhaenyra, Daemon, Rhaenys. That's three. You have
Hold up,
Baela. That's
name.
four. You have Jace. That's five.
Hold up, but Jace, oh, he does have one, right? Yeah, he
He
does.
does. That's
Yeah,
five.
but everybody else who does have them after Jace is too small and too young to be in the fight.
Right. But that's five against
Yeah,
three. And
but
so
five,
that's why
But
they're
Vagar
gonna
is
need to
like
get
three.
what's this called? Verthamir. Verthamir.
Vermithor.
They're gonna need to get that dragon because that dragon is almost the same size as Vagar and it's younger.
Mhm.
Vagar is old. And the thing is, like, we thinking like dragons, what can drag? I mean, her size, yeah, but
Mhm.
all Vagar, all they can do is burn. They're gonna burn each other, right? And
Mhm.
like fight. But Vagar is old, and yeah, she's battle tested, right? She's been in the battle and everything like that. But you get two strong dragons, like you get Caraxes
Mhm.
and what's Rhaenyra's dragon named Cyrax, or
Mhm.
if you get those, or even Melee's and Caraxes.
But I guess the other question would be is which is interesting when it comes to Aegon and Sunfire. But are we going to risk losing the queen and having her fight using Cyrax?
If it's her, not if it's her against Vagar, but
Right. But I mean,
why,
it's
that's
a
why she
liability.
doesn't even have to do. Like I feel like Damon and Rhaenys, they're dragons together.
Mhm.
Could possibly, I'm not gonna say it like a definite, but could possibly, just because when we're thinking about like just the riders, even though the dragons, the riders don't control the dragons, but they are more skilled with their dragon than Aemon is. They
Okay.
have more time with their dragons than Aemon is much younger. Like I think Aemon may be like what 20, if that. Like he's young
Or what you're saying is even correct because they've had their dragons longer.
a longer
So
time.
that's also like I think it's an interesting thing to say with regards to Aemon because we're always like Aemon is the
Aemon can't
Aemon,
control Vagar.
Aemon hasn't busted a grape yet, so I don't even like that
Aemon
everyone is
can't,
giving him the title of like he's a formidable like opponent.
girl. Aemon showed his little package to the last night too, Hunty. Like, and let's just, can we talk about how his brother is his biggest bully?
Oh my
And has
god.
been his biggest, like that's the call is coming from inside of the house, Amon. Like I'm starting to feel bad for him because I'm like, I understand that your mom and your granddad have like pretty much bullied you to like respect this kid because oh he's gonna be the heir, because they are always were plotting, at least his granddad was always plotting for him to be the king.
Mhm.
But that boy, that man, he's a horrible older brother, and he was the main one that used to bully him when he was young.
Or he was the leader of it.
And you saw it again tonight. I feel so bad for him. And it's
Oh
like
my god.
this boy is over here in a fetal position with this woman trying to hide from you, and you come yourself in there, and just he laughing harder than anybody. For his friends, not even laughing.
Yeah, I that was such an uncomfortable scene for me to watch. Like it was so like I'm like, oh my god. And the thing
Around, I was
is,
like, oh, they gonna show everything. I was like, oh, HBO. I said,
I know
wait.
I was just like, oh please Lord, don't let my parents walk through and they might be thinking I'm watching something else. But
No,
I'm
he
like, oh
came
my
downstairs and was making eggs. I turned it off. I turned YouTube on my phone because as soon as he came down, it's like it came to that scene, and I was like, oh,
I
time to
know,
turn
of
this off.
course. Oh my
I said,
Lord.
come on, HBO. Like, And then that was even before Amon stood up, but that was just when they
Yeah,
had first started walking through and you saw what was going on in there. And I'm
yeah.
like, I think this is kind of like some of the worst, not what, it was
Right.
some of the raunchiest stuff
Graphic,
we've
like,
seen.
yeah. I was like, oh, we can show that on TV, even if
Right.
it's
We showing
18
all
years.
that.
I was like, oh, okay.
And then you're gonna laugh, but I'm about to say it. I'm gonna say it. Amon showing his moose knuckle to
Oh my
everybody.
god. Oh my god. Oh my god. I was just like, why? Oh my god. But I think he did that because it was like in a space to be so embarrassed. He's like, oh, I'm gonna walk
Yeah.
in my
I'm gonna
birthday.
walk in it. I like that though. I liked it.
No. I like that he did that, I guess. But I was just like, oh my god, when Aegon is just laughing like
He laughing
it
and
was like,
still was laughing as he walking away. And I'm like, okay, let's pivot with Aegon. He is such a fool. He is such a fool. How Hardfoot Strong came in there and just got in his ear. Even though I'm kind of glad he talked him out of it because your boy probably would have been dead. Like him,
that's why I wanted them to talk him into it. I was like, no, go. I was like,
his dude
put on
bros,
the conqueror's armor. Go ahead and
his little
deal
silly
with
dude bros that was sitting up there drunk with him that night his son died. They're just sitting there, his
it.
yes men. Like I feel like if he would have went up against Baylor, do you think Nana that if even if he would have went up against Baylor, he would have lost? And I think he would have lost. Who do you think would have won if like he went out there riding his dragon trying to find Cole and the boy and Baylor was out there? Who do you think would have been? Baylor would have got him.
That's a good question because okay, Bayla is one of my favorite characters on the
Badass.
show.
Baylor is badass.
She really is. I feel like she's probably a character that I can relate to most, and she is so much like her dad.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess her mom as well. But I say that because I'm like Damon is okay. The difference between Damon and Baylor thus far is that Bayla at least she will tote the line, but she's not crossing it. But she's
Mm-hmm.
gonna tote it. And I'm like, Damon, I think Damon danced around the line and crossed it and went back. Like he would always come back, but he would cross it all the time. And so, yeah, when I saw, first of all, I was like, Moon Dancer, that was your eyesight. I was like, Bayla can't see nobody from all the way down there. I was like, y'all stop playing. Like she cannot see, but it was Moon Dancer who like kind of alerted her to something's down there,
Yeah.
right?
And then how fast she was going. Like when she came down, I was like, oh, that kind of took my breath away. Like how fast, like when she came all the way down and it's like whoosh, I was like, oh wow, they really showing us some stuff this season.
Mm-hmm.
Like with
Oh,
how fast
definitely.
she was going on
But
that.
I was honestly like, I'm sorry. I was like, when I saw her, I was like, girl, go ahead and
I
Dracaris. Like, what
wanted
are we
her to
waiting for?
burn into a crisp.
I know, I was like, Dracaris, you're close enough, Dracaris, but she didn't. And then I'm like, okay, we know why, because she didn't have permission from the queen to do so. And I'm like, okay, and she's not an Aemond, and she's not a Daemon, where they do whatever the heck they want to, or allow their like tempers to get the best of them, and including putting people in worse off positions. So yeah, I saw that, and I was like, I will say, okay, going back to Christian Cole, I very much enjoyed seeing Allison's brother with his uh, rich boy type self kind of rank on Christian Cole a little bit. I enjoyed it, even though I didn't like it because I felt like it was very much he's very much doing some sort of like class system, like, oh, I'm above you because I'm richer and my family name
Right.
is
Who
higher.
are you?
But I was like, Christian Cole gets on my absolute worst nerves. So when he was giving it to him, I was enjoying it. I did enjoy that experience.
I did too.
But I want to. So Christian Cole, how do we feel as Christian Cole's hand?
He's horrible.
Okay, and okay. Another thing that we definitely did see is that both Rhaenyra's and Aegon's councils are small councils are in disarray.
They are.
I think I wrote disarray down when I saw like at least Aegon's first, and then with Rhaenyra's, I'm saying the same thing. And I get everyone kind of deciding or saying what they believe is the best course of action. But I was like, whereas I feel like Christian Cole, specifically as hand, was who was Rhaenyra's hand?
Well, it was supposed to be Corliss, but he's never there.
Did she name a hand yet? Not yet.
Yeah,
Or did
didn't she name him the hand when he came at the end of last season when he came in from uh
I don't think so.
when he came in with Rhaenys and he said that his ships, when he said he was going to side with her, I
Okay.
feel like she named him the hand. I
Okay.
feel like she did.
Okay. I have to go back and look at that. I don't recall if she did. But I feel like a hand is supposed to, and say what we want about Otto, even though he was very conniving, very manipulative, and all of that stuff. I feel like he did have a relationship with Viserys, King Viserys, where he was able to, I don't know. I feel like a hand is supposed to be like in private. I am letting you have it, like letting you know what you're doing is wrong and all of that stuff. But after that, like in front of everyone, maybe including the small council, is when that's pulled back a little bit. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, it
And
does.
maybe it's like I'm very critical of you behind closed doors. Maybe more critical of you one on one. A little less critical in front of the
A small
council.
council, yeah.
Right, but then obviously in front of everyone, no, we're a united front. And I just felt like Christian Cole at the small council meeting, I just felt like he and mostly everyone else were like yes men, with the exception of his mom. And
Well,
so
that's why he got rid of his granddad because that's what he wants at the small council. He wants yes men.
yeah, which is unfortunate. And it made me go back to when, okay, well, I'm reminded of that scene because I feel like Allison was saying, she didn't agree with certain things and nobody was really hearing her. And so then we get to the scene where Rhaenyra and Allison are talking in the prayer room, and she basically says it's too late. Like there's nothing she could do. So let's actually jump over there. I'm not gonna lie, I was really pissed when Rhaenyra was going to King's Landing.
I did too. When Rainey's gave her that, I was just like, "This is not a good idea. This is not a good idea. Don't do it. Don't do it." Like, yeah, I didn't like that because it's so dangerous. It's so risky.
I'm like, anybody could see you. Yes, you're a septa, but I'm like, anyone could look at you, and I'm like, you didn't cover your face, like nothing, like your face, you look like Rhaenyra. And so, anyways, I guess I didn't really know where Rainey's was going, where she said you need to talk to her, and then I'm like, wait, you need to talk to her face to face. And then I also really do believe that Alicent was less than smart to be sending an apology via a letter. I'm like, I feel like it could have been worth more, even though it would have been risky for you to come as a messenger to Dragonstone and tell her this is I'm sorry, this went out of hand, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know, but I just thought like, wow, you're gonna send her a letter saying I'm sorry. Like, what is?
I didn't even. Did you read the letter? I didn't even know
No, I
you were
didn't.
read it.
I didn't read. I don't even think there was time for us to read all of it. But
They didn't even go all the way down to so you can see what was on the letter.
right.
So yeah.
But I also think it's really interesting how they like know each other really well. So when Rainey says, "Oh, this isn't Otto's doing," like Otto wouldn't have had the twin come over to try to take Rhaenyra out. Like
Right.
it's somebody younger who came up with that.
She knew it was her brother who did that.
I just thought that was interesting. I just thought that was. I'm like, you guys know each other that well.
But didn't Otto remember? Well, no, Otto didn't say that. But
Well, no, Otto said that Rhaenyra. He knew that Rhaenyra
yeah,
didn't.
he knew that she wasn't behind it. She was
Yeah.
like, this wasn't Rhaenyra. Like I know her. Like they
Mhm.
know each other because that's all they knew. She grew up around them. Um, that Allison. Oh, that moment when. But let's say this though. I feel like it was ballsy what Rhaenyra did.
Okay, what do you mean?
It was ballsy what she did by going to Allison, like herself. I feel like that took a lot of
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That took a lot of stuff. And I loved how that scene played out when Rhaenyra first came up to Allison and she pulled out that knife and she was just like, "Oh shoot, this is going bad."
I was like, Rhaenyra, what are you doing, girl? Like, I was like, Rhaenyra, oh my God.
The sticker, look, she was about to stick her. She was like, "Oh shoot," like oh,
Mhm.
like she had to catch herself, like.
Mhm.
But I like how it played out. And at the end of that conversation, it's the last scene, it's the end of the show. Like, but the fact that it left it up there. So to me, what I see from this is Allison knows the truth. And even if she may not all the way believe, I think she even believes the truth because deep down, I feel like she knows that, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think she even said it, or maybe I heard somebody saying it, like, you had just sat in that room with me with my dad,
Mhm.
and you heard
Allison's
him
secret.
saying that I'm the heir. And so it has to be a little bit of you that is questioning it. And when that came up, I was just like, oh yes, she's gonna she's realizing now that, oh shoot, she really does believe this because she doesn't know the story the same way. And this is probably another thing that's going to be in Rhaenyra's legacy for me. She just doesn't take stuff seriously like she should. Like, she really thought that the series was just going around telling everybody this story about the princess that was promised. She thought that he told Damon. And it's like, remember last season, she thought, and it's like, girl, they didn't know this. Nobody knows this story but you.
And whose fault is that? Is that
It's her
Rhaenyra's
dad.
fault?
It's her
Or
dad's fault, but it's like but her dad told her that this is information that's only given. He gave it to her after he named her heir, and he told her this information is only handed down to the person who's going to sit on the Iron Throne.
right.
If your
So
dad tells you that, then you can't assume that all these other people know about it. Like,
I didn't get that from her conversation with Allison. I think with
well, I
Damon,
don't think she thought that about Allison, but it just took me back to how she kind of just is like, oh, this is what this is for. But it's like, girl,
well, I think with Damon, I think that maybe she didn't know everything, right? Because I think that maybe there was a point in time where everyone thought that Damon was supposed to be the heir, and maybe that it's a possibility that in Rhaenyra's mind that
her dad will read
her dad
ahead, right?
told Damon about the story, and then was like, "No, you're not going to be my heir," and then named her. So no, I think she knew that because he only shared it with her and no one else, not with Damon at least, that
Yeah,
she knew that okay, my dad really meant for me to be
to
heir
be
and
here.
never wavered on that.
Yeah,
Yeah, but I didn't. It was getting on my nerves. Yes, I'm like, you're telling the secrets of things. Like, stop. But
but I don't. It didn't get on my nerves. I love the fact that because that kind of seals the deal, and there's now that the king never intended for Aegon to be his heir. Like, this is solidifying that, you know she knows, Allison knows. So anything that happens after this point, after Allison has said like it's too late, there's nothing I can do. Like, now it's your fault. I'm sorry. Every the bloodshed, the fact the House Targaryen lost all of their dragons, everything.
well, I don't know if I want to say
I
it's entirely. I mean, I'm saying like I had posted something on Threads where I was like, what did I say? Like, are you now? Is everyone now on Team Black now that we know the history? But I know I'm not going to put it all on Allison's shoulders, only because even if Allison didn't get the prophecy messed up, or not the prophecy, but the last words of the king messed up, they were still going to usurp the throne.
They were not Allison though.
Yeah, but Allison, what is she gonna do? Like, what is she gonna do to stop it? There's nothing she can do to stop them usurping. They already put the plan in motion. What could she do?
She could have, I don't know. She could have done something. I just feel like
I
she could
mean,
have done something.
maybe it was like
Talk
a
to her
part of it.
son. She was the one who remember, she is the one who hired or not hired, but made Kristen Cole and her Aemon go find Aegon so that he can be like, if she didn't have them on her side, like if she wasn't on their side, I feel like she could have, those are her kids. So I'm sorry. So if she didn't want
I don't know. I
feel like
think
it
it's
was a
like,
lot of stuff like a banana. It was a lot of banana in the tailpipe type stuff that happened in that last episode of House of Dragon season 1.
hmm
That like they had to do a lot of coaching
hmm
of Aegon for him because he did not even want it.
hmm
He did not want he the sick thing about all of this is that Aegon doesn't even want it. He didn't want
well,
it.
well, but he wants it now.
He wants it now because they've created a monster.
Yeah.
Like Otto didn't think that him doing all this was going to lead to him losing his job. I guarantee you he didn't. But
hmm
they created a monster, and so
hmm
I feel like even though the council was conspiring, um, it's still, you still got to use her kids. You still, Aegon. I don't feel like was in. I mean, Aemond. I don't feel like was in on it
And
because I
on
don't think
that.
Aemon wanted his brother to be king because he when he was talking when they were looking for him in that last episode they were talking about and Aemon was talking about how reckless he was and how you know he's not fit
Yeah,
and
but Aemond was looking at, okay, but Aemond was looking at himself, being like, "I'm a better king than my brother."
yeah,
So
yeah.
I feel like I don't believe that Aemond was against usurping. He was against usurping initially and having his brother as king.
Having his brother as king, I feel like Aemon would have went, and this is all hypothetical because we don't know, but
Mhm.
I feel like Aemon would have went with his mom more so than Otto, and I feel like if
Okay, well, let me ask you.
Allison pruned and groomed those children to be who they are and to have animosity towards Rhaenyra.
Absolutely.
So
So
she would have
okay.
did what she said she was going to do at that last episode. Well, the next to the last episode before Viserys died, when they were all at that table,
Mhm.
and she said that she that Rhaenyra was going to be a good queen, and also if she would have did what she said she was going to do, she could have been she could have done some things, but
Like what? Because
like
I'm looking at it and I'm
killing
like,
her
okay,
children.
but wait, I'm like, wait, because I agree with you that Allison is the one who groomed her children to
Be
hate,
hateful, yeah,
right?
towards their
To
sister,
be
yeah.
hateful towards their sister. But I'm like, okay, let's think about it. Let's say that Allison, stuck to Rhaenyra, you're going to be a great queen, but grandfather Otto is like, no, the realm is never going to accept her. We're usurping the throne. And who do you think Aemond will follow? You think Aemond will follow his mom versus his brother? Because they
Well, his brother
eventually,
at the time, his brother wasn't even wanting to be.
I think that having to
If
force.
she would have got to him first and she was on Rhaenyra's side,
But but what does that look like? What does got to him look like? Because Aegon was not for it until he was in front of the masses. So long as Otto is able to put Aegon in front of the masses, he would have been able to accept
she would
it.
have had to get to him before Otto did. And if she would have got to him before Otto did and got him some kind of way using Kristen Cole, using the twin that was already kind of leaning towards being on the team black anyway, if she would have gotten him out of King's Landing, which she could have done
Mhm.
in a way out of Otto's reach. They don't have anybody at that point.
So
If
do
she
you
would have allowed, oh wait, if she would have allowed Rhaenys to leave, if she would have gotten Rhaenys out, if she would have been on the on a side outside of Otto, if she would have gotten Rhaenys out, if she would have gotten a Raven out, at least as soon as Viserys died, and got that message over to Rhaenyra and Daemon, they would have never been able to have a coronation. they would have hopped on their dragons and been over to King's Landing before you can count to three. If a lot of things happened that Alicent was in on because she believed that her son was supposed to be king because she believed what Viserys said.
Hmm.
She did not let Rhaenys go. Rhaenys was the person who would have went and told them first. She was locked away because the queen Alicent put her. What did she put her in a dungeon, or she locked her in the room?
In a room.
Like she was a part of that. Like
I
things
think
could have been different.
I
Like,
think I think we're giving I think we're giving too much power to Allison.
well, yeah, we are, but she had a lot of power though, Nana. Like
She did, but I don't think she had enough power to stop it because I was even like, I'm like, wait a minute, they were gonna set this in motion regardless. They had been working
it
behind
was
the
not
back
the whole
regardless.
council though. It was only Lannister, and I think it was one of the other gentlemen, the one that sits the closest to the king on the other side of the hand, and
Mm-hmm.
it was the hand. Though it was like three of them because the Septon, I don't think the Septon knew, or one of them didn't knew. The guy who Kristen Cole took, the Maester,
Mm-hmm.
Kristen Cole took it. Like it was people on the council that didn't even know or didn't agree with it. And so everybody in that room, and it's just those people in that room, we're thinking that like it's all a King's Landing that's kind of like for it. No, nobody, it's only the people, it's only like a smaller handful of people. They don't have enough power even in that room if we're really thinking about it. So if that information would have got out some kind of way to get to Dragonstone, there would never have
Yeah,
been.
I mean, if the information came, then I feel like Rhaenyra and them would have been
There
there.
would have
They
never been. They would have never had a chance to even get to Aegon. Aegon was still in the wind when all of this was happening, when that first meeting came about.
mm-hmm.
If Alicent wasn't in on that, if they would have immediately, somebody in that room, Alicent would have been the most powerful of the people in that room outside of Otto. Because we're thinking that all of these people have the same power that the queen has. She was still the queen.
Mm-hmm.
She had more power than even, I don't know. I don't know if she had more power. I mean, that's her dad, but in the grand scheme of thing around that castle, she's still the queen. The king is dead. There is nobody that's taken the king's place at this time. So she had power. She could, if she would have gotten, and we are, this is just assumptions, but I just think that if she would have fought the cause for Rhaenyra against her father and the two or three other people on the council. Even if we're talking about propaganda,
Mm-hmm.
even if Birdie would have gotten out and said, "Oh, they're trying to usurp the throne from the true queen," anything other than, "Oh, we're about to name this boy the king because his dad wanted it, or he's the true," like anything, it could have been different.
But you know what? But I think also we that's assuming that Allison's allegiance would have been with Rhaenyra against her family.
Against her family or against her dad.
Well, I'm gonna say her family because you know what they say. It's like, okay, well, if this, so first we have to take into consideration where Otto is like the realm, and I think everyone else is pretty, for the most part, is saying that the realm is never going to accept a woman. Um,
Yeah.
you could have made them accept it, right? Come have them swear fealty like you did have them swear fealty, or they are hung, right? If they didn't do that for Aegon, so I'm like, that could have been a way. I don't know when they say, "Oh, the realm would have been in disarray if a woman was heading in." I'm like, is that really true? But let's just say that it is, right? I'm like, do we think that what's her name, Allison, is going to give the enemy a heads up, have the enemy, and I say the enemy because if Rhaenyra comes and everyone is saying no, we want Aegon, he's the true like heir to the throne, what are they going to do? They're going to take Aegon out and they're going to take Aemond out. So I feel like her children are going to have targets on their backs because her ruling the Seven Kingdoms is always going to be contested so long as her brothers are living.
That
So,
like you're sounding like Rhaenys and Otto pretty much.
because that's what they were thinking, right? They were like, "Oh, we got to take Rhaenyra out and her kids because I mean, that's just it's always going to be contested. There's always going to be people who are going to be raising behind Rhaenyra if you and I do believe that. I do believe that to be true. So I feel like in order for them to have some sort of comfort while they're on the throne, it's to we need to do more than just banish, half brothers and all of that. I mean, you could do that, but they could come back. So we could banish them. But I think that in Allison's mind, at the very least, I think that she would be convinced that if not Rhaenyra, then Damon, who was untrustworthy, would
Yeah,
be having targets on her kids' backs. And I just don't. And I see where you're coming from, but I don't see how that benefits
her
uh,
her
Allison
kids.
and her family at all. Yeah, I don't see that.
Because
So I'm like, yeah, she could have, but I honestly feel like her hands are more tied than that episode I think that episode, last night's episode, that final scene is making us feel as if Alicent is completely to blame.
yeah,
And I don't believe that to be true. I think that's too much of a burden to put to her. But I do think that it's also true where she could have, at the very least, send a raven and do something so that your conscience at least can be clean to show that you, like Rhaenyra, did everything you could to stop war.
but at this point, her hands are tied.
Hmm. Well, I also say I don't think her hands are as tight as much as she thinks they are, but they are. They are. What can she do? Not much, but I mean, you could at least try. You never know.
You know, she can't control her son, and she said it. She said, "You know, Eamon. You know how Eamon is.
Mhm,
Like she doesn't have any control anymore. Because even that, how you saw how Cole was treating
mhm,
her,
mhm.
she's seeing that she doesn't have control. So
Yeah, it's like her dad was the only person who would back her up, and she's
yeah,
like, "Oh,
and she said it right.
I'm
Didn't
an
she say it? She was like, "My dad is gone. Like
island."
they kicked my dad out, so she's lost control."
Mhm. So, and here we are in Civil War. That
Yep.
is, it's happening.
That's her. That's her talking about Rhaenyra's legacy.
Mhm.
This is
So, what do you think Rhaenyra is going to look like? So, I'm like, is Rhaenyra now like the gloves are off?
yeah. I feel like at this point she tried. There's nothing that she can do at this point. They've attempted. They've tried to take her life. There's no other way to go at this point but to war. That's why she sent her kids away. She sent her
Mhm.
kids away. She sent the dragon eggs away to keep them safe.
Mhm.
So at this point, it's about to be some blood and fire.
So I
Fire
okay,
and blood.
talking about sending her kids away. Um, I Raina, she was actually making me upset by not seeing the like initially not seeing the weight of her role, but um, she is the bearer of the future,
Yeah,
basically.
because those are Daenerys's dragons, right?
I know, but I think that's the way the
What?
show is making it. Yeah. So
No, did they
actually,
say? Wait, you told me that. Didn't you tell me
no, I
that?
told you that there was a woman. I think her name was I forgot her name, but she was someone who lived in Dragonstone, and she stole dragon eggs and sold them to get her ships. I forgot what the woman's name is. I have to look it up in the book.
Somebody
But she
was it you
stole
or
three
somebody
dragon
said
eggs.
that those three dragon eggs were Rhaenyra's dragon's eggs, though, right?
That's what someone said, but I don't. According to the book, but again, I don't know how accurate the books are. But
Right.
they did say the woman stole it. There was a woman who stole three eggs. The eggs that are there could be Rhaenyra's because who knows? Maybe the person historian didn't like tell the
The whole
accurate
truth.
story,
Or
right?
some kind of way those eggs ended up getting back to Dragonstone after the
Or
dance.
I mean, yeah, because I'm thinking, okay, I'm gonna give a couple of things away. I think, um,
Oh, don't give any spoilers because this is live, so people.
yeah, but close your ears, like for like, just give me a minute and close your ears. Okay, so of there were four eggs, right?
Hmm.
In the books, I'm almost 100% positive that Reyna, one of those eggs, she got a dragon from.
Okay.
And so that's three. And then I thought it was either Aegon or
Yeah,
Viserys.
it's one of theirs.
Yeah,
Yes,
one
one
of
of
them
theirs is
actually
it.
had a
Hmm.
dragon as
And then
well.
one of them is supposed to go. Well, no, because wasn't there like young dragons in the little cages that they had, and one
Yeah,
of them was supposed to
One of them
go.
was Joffrey's
One of
dragon.
them was
Joffrey had a
supposed to,
dragon.
right. One of them was supposed to go to the Aaron person who they
Yeah,
were going to. So
that's where
yeah,
Joffrey was going, right? And then the other two youngins are going. Were they going to Pentos?
they're all going to the same. They're all going there, right? I thought they were all going.
Okay, so in the book,
Oh, you're right. You may be right.
yeah,
Because
I think in the book, Joffrey went as a ward to Lady Erin, and he
Lady Aaron and she got a dragon, and so that was the reason why that worked. And then you're right. And then Rhaenyra asked her to go to Pentos, and that's when she was like, "You're talking about where my mom died," and it was like,
Mhm,
"Yeah."
mhm,
So that you can be safe. Okay.
mhm.
Yeah.
So I'm like, so there's four, so there's three, and I want to say one of them little boys had a dragon too. So there's only two. I don't know. I could be wrong. I honestly could be wrong, but I don't believe that those dragon eggs are the ones that are Daenerys, but I also could be wrong.
Yeah.
But then again, I'm like, but what happened to them if Rhaena was supposed to be safeguarding those eggs? Daenerys got them when she was marrying Khal Drogo, and
Hmm.
somebody bought them from someone else, not in Westeros. So
They were over in Pentos, weren't they?
something like that, or yeah,
So if she took them over to Pentos, if Raina is taking the eggs with her to Pentos,
unless she sold them, because wouldn't you think that would have stayed
unless
with
somebody stole them and sold them or
Mhm,
whatever, but they if this is how they're playing it, maybe they're playing it like this to show us how the dragon eggs got over there, because we know that in that part of the world is where Daenerys is going to get them.
mhm. So I think it's interesting how the show is making that connection, and obviously
I
the
didn't even make it until just now.
well, the book says one thing, right,
That's
and the show
crazy.
does another. So that
I
doesn't
haven't read the book though. I haven't read Fire and Blood.
yeah.
I've read all the
But
other ones.
I'm saying I think I'm basing it off of the book, but I'm like, so what? It might not even be true.
That's crazy though, because I'm just thinking about it. Like we see that
So we're
Danny
really
got the book. I
yeah.
mean, Danny got the eggs over there.
So that would be a great full circle moment
But
if
right,
Reina really did preserve
she preserved them, and
the
they ended up finding their way to a Targaryen.
right.
Um, and but we see how it's gonna end. But
Yeah.
anyway, but Nana, it's been an hour and 13
Yes.
minutes.
Yes, we have discussed at length. I don't think there's anything else to cover other than like again, continuously just making these connections
Hmm.
and with keeping in mind what is Rhaenyra's legacy, because we know what it is as the viewers, but I want to see what is she going to be what they called her, Rhaenyra the Cruel or the Kinslayer,
She's
all of
not
that
coming
stuff.
off as cruel. Like nothing about her movements are saying cruel. The
Yeah,
other side
yes,
is coming off as cruel,
yeah,
but she's not.
but I'm saying like now if she has done everything in her power, she risked her life to go to King's Landing to see
What is
Allison
cruel
face to
about
face.
that?
No,
Cruel
nothing
would
is
have been
cruel.
her killing Allison. That
No,
would have.
you're right. So, but I'm saying that's her legacy is not that now. But
Hmm.
will it become that? Is she going to be Rhaenyra the Savage now that she knows I did everything? Now I need to win back my
Well,
throne.
how can? Here's the thing: how could she be up to this point? I don't think we know that war is coming. We know there's going to be a civil war. I don't think that after this episode, when we get into the action and the war, I don't see her being able to do anything that would title her that without titling the other side that too. Because everything that she does after this time, when it is wartime, there is no, oh, you took it too far. She's fighting for her life and for her children, for the throne.
Mm-hmm.
So at this point, I don't see her legacy being anything but what we see in the show. She tried.
Mhm.
She did everything that she could. She had a level head. She
Mhm.
didn't allow men to steer her and go out based off of emotion.
Mhm.
Like she did everything that she could to kind of like uphold like her dad's legacy of like I want peace.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
now she didn't shed the first blood. She didn't
Mhm.
even shed the first blood. The Greens did.
Mhm.
So her legacy at this point is
All is fair
I,
in love and
I tried,
war.
listen, I tried you effed around and you found out. I tried to do everything I could. Now we're gonna have to find out. And
Now
what
we
happened
win.
is gonna
Right.
happen.
Yeah. All right. All right. Well, thank you, Mrs. Damon Targaryen.
I know, no problem.
I
Anytime.
appreciate it. So we're going to conclude, you guys. We might see you guys next week to continue conversations following episode 4. And episode 4 is going to be a big episode, I think. And I think everyone knows that too. So let's see what happens there. We might lose some important characters, or not, maybe not important. We might lose some big characters, or maybe we won't. But it's obvious that people that we've seen now, we're not going to see them in later episodes, I don't think.
Hmm. I
So,
don't.
yeah.
No, I don't either.
All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Oh, no problem.
All right, you guys. Until next time.